Today's episode is with my friend Ashlyn Mitchell, and I'm so thrilled to have her on the podcast today because she is just a woman of strength and courage and resilience and beauty and fun. That's at least how I observe her and I experience her, which I love. She's done and been a lot of things in her life. She's a podcast host. She previously had a podcast, a very, very successful podcast with her ex, and now she is on her own. This is Ashlyn. She really just helps supports women. She talks about raising daughters. You have two beautiful daughters, and I love watching you lead by example. I think that's one of the most important things that we can do for our children is truly lead by example. She also hosts retreats for women. You focus a lot on betrayal and trauma, but also just finding the strength within you and healing. And she has a hiking group and she roller skates. And I mean, there's just so many great things about you. And I know that a lot of these things have not come easy to you. And I love that you are willing to really open up and share with your community and also put yourself out there as like a guide and a mentor for people who have, gone through these things or are just really ready to expand themselves and to step into their own power and beauty. So, what else should the listeners know about you? And thank you so much for being here.
You're so sweet. I think you have a gift to see people because I felt very
Mm.
seen in that. Thank you. And I mean, I met you and it was an immediate, why don't I know you? How do I
Yeah, we
not
both
know
felt the
you?
same. We were like, wait, I feel like I know you, but I
Yes.
don't, like, we don't
Yes.
actually know each other.
I was
Yeah.
very drawn to all that you do. So
Mm.
I'm happy to be here and to have this conversation. You summed me up in a great way. That's me.
Oh man. Well, okay. So let's kind of go back to the beginning of when you kind of started your online presence and what initially, why did you start showing up online?
That's a good question. Well, because I did it so secretly. I did it for 4 months and told no one that I knew because what if I fail? I don't want
Mm,
people to see me fail, and this was 9 years ago. So it was on the newer side of people choosing to run businesses on social media and influence. And I started with fitness and nutrition.
yes.
And I still actually do that. I'm definitely multi-passionate. So I have lots of different things that I like to do. And that's where I started. And I was definitely more rigid in how, I wanted to follow the rules. And so you tell
Mm,
me how to work out, you tell me how to eat, and I'm going to follow the rules.
mm,
And it for a lot of reasons, it gave me like the daily ability to take care of myself in a way that I never had.
okay.
So at the same time that was going on, I wasn't sharing the struggles that I was having in my marriage. And I quickly in that 4 months became you're now the breadwinner. Well, I had been before in my life. I was an interior designer for years, but I
Yeah.
had kids and so I was different. And my former husband had lost his job and he said, you got to make this work. And it was just that pressure of
I do not know this part of your story. Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
So
it was
no
so
pressure.
long ago, so
Yeah.
long ago.
Mhm.
But I was this little newbie. I'm not a fitness expert. I went to school in interior design. I was just following programs and sharing it.
Mama
And
Bear Fitness, right? That was
Mama
your
Bear Fit,
account?
that's where I
Okay.
started.
Mhm.
And I was just giving people online support, and I still
Mm.
do.
Mhm.
So I made it work. And I was quickly a top 100 Beachbody coach
Okay.
those first few months, which is out of 60,000 coaches, because of the pressure of you have to make this work.
Mm.
And I'm really good at, okay, I can be successful because I'm going to ignore my troubled marriage over here. I'll put all my
Probably felt
energy.
good.
Oh yeah. And I was really successful in interior design for the same reason. Just like
Mm.
ignore this and succeed over here. And then you feel confident and happy and blah, blah, blah.
Okay,
So
let's actually address that for a minute because I think that this happened, like the extremeness that you're talking about, like it was a survival mode. And
oh
so
yeah.
like there's no way you can feel bad about that or shame yourself about that. But looking back at that, there's oftentimes when we feel like our lives are out of control or we don't have control over, let's say in this situation, your marriage, then it feels really, really good to have this rigid exercise routine and
For sure.
right. And
It was
nutrition plan.
control. Like I felt so chaotic that if I had some control, my fitness, my nutrition, and then my success in work, then I was okay.
Mm-hmm.
And truthfully, at the time, I didn't know how to really feel.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't, my family roles were to just not feel, like just push it down. We don't talk about the hard stuff. We definitely don't share it with other people. And so as I began to do that, it was very uncomfortable for my family to watch. Like, why are you talking about hard things online? Because that is embarrassing to us, which I get now, but at the time it was so confusing. Like, I'm just starting to learn to feel, and I want others to learn to feel. I've waited way too long to feel.
And they're like, but if you feel, then maybe I have to feel. And if someone else talks about your feelings, and it's going to make me feel something, and it's like, they don't want to, but okay, that's a lot there's a big conversation there. But what I would love to know so if someone is listening and they feel like maybe they are in this extreme, version in one way of their life, trying to avoid or protect another part of their life that doesn't maybe feel safe or secure, or that they have any control over it, noticing that, then what do they do?
I wish I could say I was self-aware, and I was not.
Yeah.
I was compelled to make change because my life fell apart.
Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I think most of us are compelled to make change. We hit rock bottom and then we climb our way back up. So I am always fascinated when people aren't compelled and they just like, I need to go to therapy. I need to go to this retreat. I want to do this. I'm thinking, how are you that great that you can see that in yourself, that you need help? Another family belief is don't ask for help. So I for sure was not going to go to therapy. I was not going to ask my family for help or religious leaders. It was everything I needed to protect. I had a lot of shame that my marriage wasn't working. I was dealing with betrayal, which for me, it was a reflection of me that, as women, we take that on and it must be us. And as cliche as it is, my own child even said the other day, this boy likes me, and he said his girlfriend is mean and dumb, so he doesn't even like her, so it's okay. And I was like, oh my, that's cliche. Like, no, he should break up with her if he's wanting to get out of it. So we often, I was one of them, blame the wife or whoever's getting cheated on. It's like, it was because they're mean or they're frumpy or they're boring, or it's a choice. We all make these choices. So
the thing that came to mind though, when you were sharing that, when you were like, you're so like shocked or impressed or like, wow, people can just change. But you want to know what I see is like, it's because people are letting them know that they can change, that they don't have to wait until all of a sudden they're at like rock bottom to make decisions. But back then you probably weren't hearing that a lot. You probably weren't getting that information. And now there's so many of, I'll say us, who are being willing to like share the vulnerability, to share in the hopes of helping someone before they are truly at rock bottom.
You're right. And I often have said, I wish I had my own podcast, but the Betrayed the Addicted Expert back 9 years ago, 10 years or 15, 20 years ago, because I needed me. I needed to hear hope that I could change, that he could change, all the things. So what changed for me was really a friend posting on social media, vulnerable, and then reaching out to me privately and saying, hey, will you share this? And it was a conference about betrayal. And I immediately was thinking, what does she know about me? Because I've told no one.
Yeah.
And it terrified me. And I ended up telling her my story through Facebook Messenger, which is what happens to me all the time. Probably, you get that. And I didn't think it was weird, but it was just this huge relief of, I finally told someone that I'm hurting and I don't know what to do. And for her to say, hey, actually, there's therapists who specialize in this. There's so many resources. There's tons of other women who are coming to this conference. Come. And that's what started my whole journey of, I didn't know I could ask for help. Which
is not uncommon, right? Like people don't even know that those options exist for themselves. People don't know that like we just don't know what we don't know. And we also are like, when we're in that survival or that protection mode, then we want to like, we believe that we're the only ones going through it. So we've got to figure it out. Right.
Yes. And I was afraid that people would judge him and then they would judge me. And so it's just so much protection that really was hurting both of us. We were staying stuck.
That's fascinating. And so like looking back at like protection for you or protection for him, what do you make up about that? Like, what do you see? Like, what do you see about like this? Like, how would you, if you were to kind of explain that for someone, this protection, like, why do we do that? What do we think that the result is going to be if we protect? And now that you see it, it's like, what do you know? What do you actually know about protection?
Well, it's crazy because yes, if I'm looking at it from my vantage point now and saying like, Ashlyn, I promise it doesn't even matter if people judge you, because if they're judging us from their own stuff, but he was protective and like, don't tell people because of how it reflected on him. I was protective, like, if I tell, then it's that fear of what other people think. And I hate that I still have a little bit of that in me.
Which is is normal, right?
It's normal. But it keeps me from doing the things that I want to do or need to do. And the reality is it doesn't matter, because for me choosing to finally tell someone and to finally see that there was help, he got help. He chose to say, hey, let's do this and step into it, which blew my mind. And we started this entire journey together. And it was fear of being judged that kept us. And I don't know what my long-term thought was. I know I thought it was normal. You know, you hear marriage is hard. You got to work at it. And so I assumed that what I was going through was considered hard and part of that normal, without realizing, I don't think most people are going through betrayal. I think hard is like the minute littler things.
Yeah. And also I think too that like working hard or working on your marriage, or when it's hard, some people just think that means enduring, like just surviving. And working is actually looking at the issues and seeing what's actually working and what's not working. And then like diving into those things. It's not just like this enduring through the hard. That doesn't mean you're like working or that it's just hard. It's like, no, you have to actually dive in and figure things out. Right.
Yes. And I soon learned that as we started to learn tools and how to communicate, and sadly, it was pretty basics of how any relationship should function. We just were never taught. And so you add in the betrayal and the other pressures, it was just a mess. And so once we started learning those tools and we really focused on, we never really did couples therapy until the end. It was individual. Like, I'm going to work on my healing, work on yours. And that really worked for us in a lot of ways. And we did find a lot of peace for, 7 years, the last 7 years, where we could not survive and find happy and rebuild. And then we ended up getting divorced, and it was not over betrayal. It was the growing apart, and we have different values and just weren't in the same place anymore.
Which, I mean, sometimes that's like why people avoid doing the work and the growth, is because they're afraid that they might grow apart, that things might change. But also, like, isn't it better to grow apart rather than to not grow at all? I mean, and that's a hard thing to say, but you know what I mean?
Yes. And I get people all the time who say, do you regret staying and working through it? And do you what are your regrets? And I really don't have regrets. The regrets I have are in when my former husband asked me for a divorce 2 years ago. I tried to convince him not to choose that. That's my regret, that I didn't choose me and I was waiting for him to choose me. There's still a lot of forgiveness to self in that for me, that I felt so weak. It took the carpet out from under me, and I didn't know where to go from there. That was probably my lowest, was the divorce, which is
well, and there's something to be said about years and years and years of you choosing him, even when. And so then you're like, I chose him for all these years, and I really like put up with all of these things, and we really did this work. And then now, wait, what? You're not choosing me? Like, I was supposed to not choose you after all that we've been through. But also, I mean,
we had that one.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. And so, and also, like, to be loved, to be chosen, to, like, when you're working so hard towards that, which really sucks that that's a thing, but that's what we all want in the end. It's like, we don't want someone to just like love us, that we want them to choose us and to show us that we are loved. And so sometimes when you're so focused on that desire, because now looking back, you can say like, wait, he actually wasn't choosing me. So why would I want him to be with me if he wasn't choosing me? But it's really hard to see when you're in the middle of that.
Oh,
and when you just want to feel loved and you want to like be chosen.
Yeah. Well, and the hard part is we'd found a lot of happiness. And so it wasn't this right in front of my face thing. Hindsight 2020. Yes, it was. But he could say a lot of the same things. I wasn't loving him in the ways that I wanted to, because I still had some protection and walls up. And so I thanked him probably last year. So a year into divorce, I just said, I know it was so hard. He got a lot of public ridicule for ending our marriage because it didn't make sense. And people said exactly what you just said.
After all she's been through, how dare you? Yeah.
How dare you? And I didn't understand it. My brain wanted to make sense. And so I spent so much wasted time trying to make sense. And in the end, as I've stepped into myself more than ever and to find new love, it's a gift. It has been such a gift that I can't imagine how hard it was for him to step into that arena and say, hey, I'm going to choose me, even though it looks absolutely crazy. He needed it. And in return, it was this giant gift to me that I had no idea. I thought I'd done all this work to love myself. And turns out I was left on the floor going, I don't think I love myself. I think that no one's going to love me. Like, my whole life is out there with this other man, and who's going to accept that? It was terrifying for me to look to my future. I thought my business would end, just everything. I didn't have a lot of hope, and I did go to a place of just a lot of darkness, and ended up in the doctor's office the next day saying, I need help. I need help.
And thank goodness that along that path of your experience that you learned that it was okay to ask for help, right? Because then when you get to this like really hard, dark place, the first thing you do is go ask for help. And a lot of people would be like, no one loves me and I need help. And what am I even doing? Right. And get even darker into that darkness.
Don't get me wrong, Chelsea. I was so low, and I was, you have to remember this was public. And so as weird as it is, it's not normal, but people were sending messages on the daily, like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you showing up? What, are you guys together? Is he moving out? And it was like, I can't even deal with my own life. And why are you asking a stranger on the internet? Like, I can't deal with this. It was so much. And I didn't do everything perfectly. I don't know that I would do it different, but because it's all I knew how to do it.
Right.
Who goes through a divorce publicly? It's not something any of us want to do.
Even if it's not publicly, it's like you're still having the conversations, like your friends are still texting you, your family still, your parents are trying to make it like, if they are struggled with what judgment they're afraid of might come from other people, then they are trying to protect you, and they're trying to, it is just complicated no matter what, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me to go to, it took me a lot of, I had therapy twice a week. I had just a team of support for me to work through this because I was so low. Here I had all these tools. I was helping women. And yet I didn't take on new clients. That's when I actually hired 6 other women to run groups for me. And I did tell the women that I was mentoring, saying, hey, this is what's going on. And you're welcome to leave if this feels wrong to you. And they all stayed. And it blew my mind because they said, we're not in this to stay married. That was never the goal. The goal is to heal. And the bonus is you get to stay married. And that is the bonus. And for some of us, it doesn't end up that way.
So all of this is a big part of your story, but it is not your story, and it's not the full part of your story. And actually I wanted to share, I wanted to go into that because I do think it's important for people who maybe are sitting in this place that feels like darkness and feels hard and feels like they're choosing over and over again. And it's not, the outcome is not what they're like hoping for it to be. But I really want to go into this part where you, for maybe the first time, you actually really, truly turn to choose you. And this is a message that is so important to me and something that I'm like constantly just trying to, like, you cannot have a great, thriving life and relationships with other people if it's not starting with you. That relationship that you have with yourself is the most important, most impactful, most precious gift. And I try to, I'm like, we got to teach our littles so that they can know that, we got to protect them. And I know you share the same belief and the same like experience and message. And so let's talk about this, like this process of growing this relationship with yourself, this stepping into your power and your beauty and grace and what that's kind of looked like for you.
It's been the most impactful. Absolutely. Let me just go back and tell you kind of where I was so that maybe people can, because you may think I thought I was choosing myself for a lot of years. Like, look, I take care of myself and blah, 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 blah. But I was still like, does he like me? Is this going to work? And are people going to follow me? Are people going to sign up? Like, it's just like,
there's still so much attachment. And that's yes. And I think that's what people can notice and recognize is like, we have to release attachment to other people, to judgment, to what people might say, what the results might look like. In order to fully love and embrace and know yourself, you have to release attachment.
Yes. Yes. So I was very much attached to all of those things, but also then frustrated that all of the hard things in my life had happened to me. I hadn't caused them. And so it was like, okay, so I'm divorced now. I am alone and I have my kids 50% of the time. So the weeks that I'm alone, I'm alone. So what are you going to do with that time? I had a hard time making decisions on my own when I was married. So even changing my hair, should I cut bangs? Let me ask Instagram. My husband won't tell me, if he thinks I should cut bangs. So I'll ask Instagram. Should I buy this dress or this dress? I'll ask Instagram, or I'll ask my sister or my mom, or it was just everyone else tell me what to do because I don't trust my own decision making. Traveling, it's super hard for me to pick what hotel we would stay in, even though I'm the one that wants to do the research and pick the vacation and everything. I was so worried that people would be disappointed and then I would get blamed for it, that it would just shut me down. So then you look at divorce and, okay, now I have to pay my own bills. I had to buy and sell my own car, which a lot of people do when they're married. I never did that. My former partner did. And I let him do a lot of those things. I was by his side, but I wasn't negotiating. I wasn't doing any of those things. I bought my own house. It was terrifying. Are these the right decisions to make? I don't know, but I'm going to trust my gut. And so I had many, many moments of meditation where I was feeling my head and feeling my stomach and saying, where do I feel this? Like, is this decision coming from my brain and keeping me in fear and telling me all the things why I shouldn't do it?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it coming from my heart and my soul and saying this feels right? And I had to learn how to do that in a huge way because that floor had just
Mm-hmm.
disappeared. And what I thought I knew, I didn't. And so for me, just making tiny little decisions was where I began to start choosing myself, was self-trust.
Which is huge. And this is actually something in my group coaching that we're working on right now, is like this challenge of just, even if it's you're driving and you normally always go one way and you have the thought to like go a different way, just say, okay, great. Like I hear
I
you.
did that.
You
Last night
did.
I did
Is
that. And my
oh
boyfriend's like, why are we going this way? I'm like, because I can.
Yeah. You're like, I don't know. I'm actually just trusting. Or it's like when you go to eat something and you're like, no, actually, that doesn't sound good. Instead of like just the habitual eating that thing, then say,
Yes.
what does sound good? And just these little tiny decisions. And so I loved so much that I love so much that you shared that, because I do think that we don't take time to notice, like, what perfume do I want to wear today? Like, what smells good to me? Like, what do I want to wear? I'm not going to just grab this thing, but like, what feels good? Or should I drive this way? Should I go this way? What, and just those little tiny practices of listening to yourself lead you to be able to like feel more confident and capable in bigger decisions.
Yes. It is so funny. I love that you can relate to this because you do it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's the little things. I've eaten different foods and at different places more than I ever have in my whole life since being divorced,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm open to the idea that maybe I would like this. And sometimes I don't.
Ooh,
Um,
let's challenge all the listeners. The next time you go to your favorite restaurant, try something new. Maybe not your favorite restaurant, because maybe but maybe next time you go to like one of the ones you kind
yes.
of like, try something new. Taste
Yeah.
taste a different sauce. Do a different, have a different drink. Do something new, and then guess what? Because even if you taste it and you don't like it as much, at least now you know,
Yes.
right? There's no bad in that.
Okay, and then this one is, I don't know if this even fits in the same, but there was a part of, I feel very rejected after divorce,
Mhm.
especially when people are saying, I can't believe he left you. You didn't leave him. So I'm thinking, am I like, did I do it wrong?
Mhm.
Am I wrong?
Mhm.
So a lot of self-doubt and unworthiness that all just bubbled up again. Things that I'd worked on for years, it's in a new arena.
Mhm.
So there it is again. I got to work
Yeah.
through it. I found myself when I would be driving, I'm starving, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. I wouldn't stop to buy myself food or get a drink because I wasn't worthy of spending the money. That's such a waste of money. I'll just go home. But then I would still run errands and not eat or drink. And I will stop for my kids. If they're hungry, if they're thirsty, I will immediately stop and get them food.
Mm.
And I was noticing, why am I not? I'm buying them food and I'm not buying me food. And a lot of it was some of that rigidity coming back of like, this
Mhm.
isn't good food, so I'm not going to waste my
Mhm.
money on it. It's a drive-through.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so I started buying food, and it's still a big deal for me when I buy myself food for when I could easily go home and eat. And
Mhm.
I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, but it's a worthiness issue for me. I didn't feel worthy of everyone else does. Like I'll buy everyone else food, but not me. So little things like that. Um, oh, my wall. Okay, so I'll show you
Yeah.
the wall right here. I have
Mhm.
these 20-foot ceilings, and everything was decorated in the house. But one of the first things I did after divorce was I'm going to pick the paint color and how I decorate the house. I'm going to pick a new couch. I'm going to pick plants and all these things on my own. I asked no
Mm.
one's opinion. I just did it. And it was the most freeing and beautiful weekend of my life. I didn't have my kids because my kids go to their dads now. Right. And so I had the space and time to, wear my underwear while I painted and listen
Yes.
to good music because it was just me. And I was choosing what I wanted to do in the color I wanted to do it. So it's been in all these little things, choices. A lot of them have been choosing myself. Um, Also doing a lot of things alone. I skied alone a lot the last 2 years, and I hike alone frequently. I do have a hiking group. I have lots of friends who hike. but sometimes I just want to be alone and experience that and remember me again. That's me. Like, hey, we're too much with other people right now, or relying on other people. We need to be alone.
So some people, being alone is when you feel afraid, because that's when you really see things as they are. One thing I want to say is like I wish I could remember who said this, but she talks about that the truest form of self-torture is arguing with what is. And um and the truth is like being alone, you look at what is, right? And so some people are afraid to be alone because all of a sudden they're forced to see what is. There's not the distraction, there's not the noise, there's not all of these things. And so was it scary for you at first to be alone?
Absolutely. I'd always listen to a podcast or a book, or music. So even the silencing the noise and just being alone with my thoughts, because my thoughts weren't nice in the beginning. My thoughts, I was beating myself up that I was having such unworthiness feelings and rejection when I'd worked for years in therapy to not feel that way. So I was frustrated with myself and also terrified of my future. So, and for me, really choosing, I would say probably 4 months into divorce is when I shifted. And it was, I'm not going to lie, I had a team of people who are really supporting and helping me. I reused my resources.
Yeah.
So I moved through it fairly quickly, but it was the letting go. It was the letting go of, why didn't this work out? Why didn't he choose me? Trying to make sense of it. That was
arguing with what is.
It was holding me back. And when that was the first time that I was like, this is what surrender means. Like, this is what it feels like. Why didn't I do this so much earlier? Because it felt amazing. All of a sudden I was lighter. I kept getting people say, you're glowing. What are you doing? And I was like, nothing.
You're like, well, I'm not pregnant. Okay.
I know. I am alone.
Yeah.
But it was like, I felt it and you could see it. The letting go, that shift in me.
I love, you do such a good job at showing, like, I'm not a huge fan always of like a before and after, because 90% of the time I'm like, you had a baby and now this is your after. Like, duh, stop like making me feel like this because you just had a baby. Like, congratulations. Or like, don't put your pressure, that pressure on yourself. Like, so I sort of struggle, but I actually love before and after of like the face that is in the struggle and the pain, and the face that goes to surrender and freedom and expansion. And so I really love when I get to see those, like, see it in your eyes. And it's interesting because there was like a time of my life where I was really struggling and I was in a dark place of just like overwhelm and like priorities. I wasn't able to choose living in my priorities just because of my circumstances. And I was really struggling. And Cohen loves to look through the pictures on my phone. And I have all the years of all the pictures. I just keep buying more storage, it's so stupid. But so I have all these pictures and he just loves to sit. And there's this picture that pulls up and actually I'm smiling in the picture. And he looks and he said, Mom, why are your eyes sad? Oh. And this was just like recently. And the picture was like, 7 years ago. And it like caught me off guard, but he's also so aware that I was not shocked at all. But he's like, he's like, why are your eyes sad? And I'm like, you're right. You are actually right. My eyes were really sad because that was a really hard time for me. And so I love seeing that. And how is it working with people, seeing them get to this place where they stop arguing with what is, they see things as they truly are, and they say, okay, this is the situation. And how am I going to move through this? What am I going to choose? Who am I? What do I love about myself? Like, you've obviously been able to experience this the last couple of years. And I mean, just like talk about bloom and flourish. And I know it's not all sunshine and rainbows. I know, and it never will be, right? No matter how good our life looks or feels, there will always be the things that we're working through because that's what life's all about. But like, what is it like now being able to help people and see people make this transformation?
This is definitely the most rewarding work for me to see, because it is hard some days where they are stuck in the, I need it to make sense. And you want them to be able to feel and allow that to go through them. So we don't allow it every week, right? When we meet, I'm like, okay, now we need to move through to something else. But to start see that these women use their voices. A lot of us have lost our voice, whether you've been betrayed or not. Just some of the beliefs or the way we were raised, patriarchy, culture, whatever it is for you, I didn't use my voice enough in my profession, in my personal life, in parenting. And so for these women to start saying, hey, I need to set some boundaries for myself. I'm not protecting my energy. Like, you're doing it, and you're not doing it in the mean way of like, get out of my life. No. You're saying, hey, this is for me. I need to take a step back. That's beautiful. And it's just fun. It's fun for me to see women who say, hey, I think I'm going to go back to school. Like, I think there's more for me out there. And they've lost themselves in motherhood or in marriage and forgot they were someone that was an individual who liked things, and they start joining me on hikes or they start their own thing. And it's beautiful. And that is the shift. But I have a lot of women who are still in the not accepting what is. I'm still in some of that, even just with my future. There's still some letting go of, this is never going to, like, it already hasn't worked out how I thought it would. Then you start dating and you say, what is that going to look like long term? And just putting kids to bed, that will never be the same for me, because I don't have their father in the home. Like, we have 2 kids. So we each had a kid every night and had one-on-one time and put them to bed. And now it's just a me job. And for him, it's a him job. And having a partner who loves my kids and they love him, he still is like, that's your thing for now until we feel like it's our thing. And it's just never going to look the same. So there's some grief in that. I'm like, oh, but we had such a good time, but also it's different. They're older. This is normal.
And let me just give you some like encouragement in the fact that it always changes. Like, as your kids grow, even if both of you were in the home, right? It changes. Yes. Bedtime changes and relationships change and their needs change and their wants change. And so like, that is, I think no one prepares us as parents that it's going to come with a lot of like grieving of what was or like what is to be. And that's a hard thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Like, oh wait, you're shifting, like seeing my kid move from the innocent to their teenage self. I'm like, no, I don't, like, come back to this one.
But then we're like, what is? And then when we realize what is, then we actually are such a more powerful resource for them, because we're not trying to be like, no, it's fine. Like, remember, you're 8, you're fine, And I actually, one day my twins, one of them said to me, I can't remember which one it was, but she said, it's really hard for me to hear when you say like, remember when you were like this, or remember how you were like this, or whatever. She's like, because I think I should have the ability and the freedom to be able to like be myself, and I'm not always going to be the same. And I was like, oh shoot, I'm just saying I loved that about you, but like, I can see where that feels like,
listening to you. So she's like,
I know, isn't it bad when the work that you do comes back to, be reminded by your children?
Love, hate. It's like,
but also you're like, good. Yes. I love that. No.
So yeah, I'm letting go of the idea that I might have more kids. Which I was like, no, I have 2 kids forever. And that's just not the reality anymore for me. And it's exciting and also a little bit scary.
Oh, I'm not going to put any more pressure on you, but I sure hope so. That feels fun. I'm like, I wonder what kind of mom I would be now.
No, that's what my kid said. Like, Mom, you are such a different mom. We could do so many great things for this kid. And I was like, okay, if my 12-year-old is telling me how cool it could be, then yeah. So
Yeah. And what an awesome, like, I know that we don't all want big change or force change or all this like uncertainty. Like, we like to feel safe and secure. But also, when you kind of are able to work through things, you see the beauty of the unknown, the
yeah.
possibilities. It's like, there are people, there are experiences, there are like jobs, there are friends that we don't even know exist today that could be a huge part of our life tomorrow. And so even when we're in the stages of suffering and grief, like, just believing that helps me. Just
Mhm.
believing that there are things and people and opportunities and feelings that maybe I've never even felt before, right? That they're out there. And who knows when they're going to come, but it's kind of a way that I try to help navigate change, because
Mm.
I like things to stay the same. Like, I like to feel comfortable. I like to feel like, I know what's going on, but I think we all do a little bit. But also, I look at your life and I see, gosh, if everything stayed the same, like, think of all that you would have missed out on.
Yes. And that's the hard part, because I would never say go get divorced and fight.
No,
Like, I really do believe people are doing this. You're probably one of them within a marriage. You can absolutely learn to choose yourself, find yourself,
totally.
stay. It pushed me in a way that I wasn't being pushed.
Mm-hmm. Well, and some people truly aren't allowed, like, some people, because it does take a husband and a wife who are like steady and who have a lot of trust in each other, to be able to give them permission to grow and to learn and to evolve and to become strong. There's a lot of people who are really threatened by strength of becoming who you are and stepping into your power, right? So but also, I do think that when we choose us, we don't have to use it against them. And I think that you have to be careful not to use it against them. Like, I can buy my own flowers. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to use that as a threat for my husband, because I would love I'd love him to buy me flowers. Could I buy all my own flowers? Absolutely. But it feels good to me knowing that I would go buy myself flowers, and not to prove anything against him, but just because I love myself. I want to, I know what I love. I love fresh flowers on the counter. That's great. It doesn't matter. So there's a lot that we can go into that, but I just think it's so beautiful. I just think it's so beautiful watching you over the last few years. I didn't know that it was you, but I did know about Mama Bear Fitness, right? And so, and as you share your story, and as you like continue to evolve and change and grow, like, I just love watching that there has always been a sort of growth. But I really see this last stage of growth that you've been going through is the development of Ashlyn, is that it's stepping into your own gifts and your own power without the noise of expectations or pressure, and it's, I think it goes back to what we talked about, the release attachment, release that like hold on trying to control, because there's this thing where it's like, there's the way that people see us, the way that we see ourselves, and the way that we think people see us. And typically we act and make decisions out of the way that we think people see us. And that's actually the only inaccurate thing, because we don't know, right? There's the way we see us and there's the way other people see us. We have no control over the way other people see us, but we live and we make choices in the way that we think other people see us.
Okay, so I have to share one thing that
Please.
really helped me just question myself, and when I was making decisions for me or not, was who was I living my life for? Was I living it for my parents, for my children, for my religion, for my audience? Who was I living for? And when I really would ask myself those questions, I had to pause, because I wasn't making decisions for me and living the life that I wanted. And so when I started living the life for me, that's when I started to shift. And it made a lot of people uncomfortable, because I wasn't following family rules or even the rules in my neighborhood, like these things. But the life I'm living now, I think I would be shocked 5 years ago. Like,
Mm.
but who are you? What are you doing? But I am the most me I've ever been.
Now, people, when some people who haven't experienced like this type of living, when they hear that, it can be like, well, isn't that selfish? Isn't it selfish to say like, I'm living for me? But I just want to encourage everyone listening that when you choose to live for you, that is when you actually show up the very, very best as a mom, as a wife, as a friend, as a coworker. What like it choosing you is staying in integrity with yourself and then trusting yourself and then knowing yourself and then actually allowing people to know themselves, allowing people to choose themselves. And it works so beautifully together. It's not this like selfish, like it's all about me. I don't care about all the rest of you. You actually care more about other people when you care about yourself.
My relationships are better now that I live this way because, like you said, I know who I am and what I need and what I can give. And so I'm more boundaried. I'm more loving. Maybe I'm not nice, but I'm kind. And I will always, I'm not going to bend over and people please like I used to.
Well, because people pleasing is just trying to control how they receive you, right? That's actually just trying to get them to choose you, but you don't need them to choose you.
Yeah. So I like when people say you're kind, and I'm not maybe nice, but I'm going to tell you the truth.
Worst best friend. That's my favorite term ever. I'm like, I only want worst best friends. Like, I don't want a best friend who just tells me whatever I want to hear, right? Like one time I dated this guy and I swear every time I was like, I love purple. He's like, me too. It's the best color ever. I'm like, I love Subway sandwiches. Oh man, I love Subway sandwiches. No, stop. Like, just, and those are silly examples, but it's like,
who are you?
Yes. It's like, who are you? I know me. And when you know yourself, you actually don't want people to be everything that you are. It's like, no, I want to know you. Like, I want to understand you and I want you to know you. Yeah. There's so much freedom. So much freedom.
There is. And I will say it's been me choosing me it slowed me down before reacting because I have to check in with myself, if I'm really choosing me. And so one thing that's been fascinating and, it's amplified because I'm a single mom is being cared for by a partner in such a new way where I'm like hyper independence right now because I have to take care of so much, running a business, taking care of my kids, and to let my boyfriend do so many things that I can do myself. Like you said, I could buy my own flowers, but like, yes, I'll let you take out the trash, even though you don't, I could take out the trash. This is stupid. It's little things like that, even that it makes me slow down and say, yeah, because old me who didn't choose me, I was in charge. I'm doing it. I got this. You don't got this. And it really, I thought I was choosing me in that moment, but I was so hyper independent. I wasn't even letting people in to love me.
And now the difference is that you can actually feel chosen and feel loved by yourself and others.
Yes, I couldn't take the trash out, but I'm going to let you because I know that is you showing me that you love me. Yes.
Ah, that's so good. So many good takeaways from this conversation. I know we could talk for 4 more hours about so many different things, but I think like the overarching message just really is that sometimes things might not work out how you want them to, but each of us has within us the ability to ask for help, to receive help, to learn to know and trust yourself, and also to love fully and be loved, right? Like we get to grow for ourselves in order to be the most fullest, most beautiful, strong version of ourselves. And honestly, that's kind of what the world needs from us.
Yes. Yes. And I see that in
you need. Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, yes, just, you can make it work. Like either side, you make it work.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for the way that you have like humbly shown up for years for so many people who needed you in so many different different ways, and giving yourself permission to not stay stuck in that one place always, because that's also something that is hard to, it's hard to do. It's hard to, maybe I say the word outgrow, but that's, it feels like you're leaving people behind, right? But that's the purpose of life, is to continue to grow. And that's why this podcast is the dance of growth, is because it is this important thing of just movement and growth. And sometimes it looks different than what we anticipated, but we got to notice what feels good and keep moving. So I just appreciate it so much. So I like to end the podcast episode with these two questions: this idea of fire in her heart, peace in her soul, and the ability to really dance with both of those things, but not at the expense of either. So what is something that is currently lighting your heart on fire?
I would say the retreat that I have 2 retreats coming up. One sold out, the Iceland one, and Southern Utah is not sold out yet, but just the excitement, the girls are already chatting and excited to go. But I take these retreats and I get to I bring my favorite people that have helped me in my life. And these women don't have betrayal or divorce necessarily. They're just like, I want to grow and I want to have fun and I want to heal. I want to find more of myself. And yet they get to go and do this therapeutic group work with my old therapist and
so cool.
shoot with Becca. Like, it's just, I wish I could transform it. Like, everyone needs this because it's different. It's different to you online coach all these people, but to have people in real life is different. It's fun.
Yep. No, there's such power in that in-person community gathering, work together type situation. And also just removing yourself from your normal day-to-day activities and really picking yourself up. It's almost, I always say, it's like emptying your closet. And so you like empty your closet and you're like there and you have this like wide open closet for the first time in maybe months or years. And so you really get to decide what you want your closet to look like, what you want in your closet, what you're going to like take to the, Goodwill or whatever. But so I love that. And it's so powerful. And what is something that you do to protect the peace of your soul?
I would say, if you haven't read the 4 agreements, that is something that is protecting my peace, is number 2, is really trying not to take things personal and make things about me. I'm really good at that. I'm really good at creating stories, and it's bringing me peace to just let it go and protect myself where I need to, but also not. I create a lot of hurt when I allow that belief in what people are trying to do me.
Yeah, no, that's so beautiful. Where can the listeners find you?
Over on This Is Ashlyn, Instagram, website, podcast, and it's intentional. This is Ashlyn. There is no last name. It is just me.
I love it.
People like you that are wonderful and experts in their own area. So,
thank you so much. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.